With Patrick Robinson's departure back to the Big Easy, Philadelphia Eagles need a replacement for the nickel cornerback spot. And here is Doug Peterson speaking at the NFC Coaches Breakfast on Tuesday.
I mean, that's an area that we'll have to address this spring. We've got some guys that, whether it's Jalen Mills moving in there, whether it's, Worley moving in there, whoever that might be.
Jalen Mills and Daryl Worley, huh? Mills was the guy that I kind of threw out there a couple weeks ago as to who might take over that nickel spot. I think he is better against the run in terms of tackling. When you look at the inside position there, you're just outside the tackle. So those outside runs, those off-tackle runs, you look for your nickel to stick his head in the running game. Daryl Worley is an even better tackler than Mills is, but I don't know if Worley has that twitchiness that you look for at all. He's a big, long, physical corner, and I don't see him being a nickel candidate. I'd prefer him to either be on the outside or maybe he takes over that Corey Graham role as the third safety, something that the Eagles utilized a lot as the season went along. Once Jordan Hicks went down, you had Jenkins play kind of a linebacker role. You had Rodney McLeod playing the single high, and Corey Graham was basically almost like another nickel corner. The Eagles like to use their safeties in the slot a lot of the time. As for what Doug Peterson looks for in a nickel cornerback, here's what he had to say.
One, you got to have your change of direction, your short area quickness. You don't necessarily have to have the long speed in there. You got to be tough as nails, you got to be able to stick your nose in there and make a tackle. You're basically you're a smaller linebacker, that can run, a little more athleticism. I think that's something that Patrick Robinson, as the year went, got better and better and better at, making plays around the box, tackling, and still being able to defend, those short, quicker, twitchier receivers that we have in our division. He was able to do that, and those are things we look for, in having that, and you got to be smart. I mean, you got to be a thinker on your feet. You got to be able to process information because you're constantly. Corners are different because they're kind of on the island. They're out there. It's either man or zone for them. I mean, it's a different deal. But inside, you're communicating with linebackers. You're communicating with DNs. You're communicating with safeties. So you got to have a little bit of that, as Jim calls it, that high-speed internet, to be able to process and be on your feet.
Peterson also discussed Mills' versatility and how he might feel comfortable playing him at the safety spot.
If you ever need him to play a safety spot, I mean, he can go back. He's that type of athlete. He's positioned. He's not just one guy in one position. I think he's versatile enough to now that we can be able to move him around a little bit. For a guy that was drafted where he was, late, he's been a real big bright spot for us, these first 2 years.
It's interesting that Peterson brought up Mills' versatility to potentially play safety. There's two ways they look at that. One, he might be playing that Corey Graham role and being a nickel corner this year because, as I explained, Ronald Darby and Sidney Jones, I prefer those guys on the outside. But you don't want to waste Mills on the bench. You want him out on the field, especially after what he's shown his first 2 years in the league. And number two, Rodney McLeod has a big cap number for next year. It costs more to cut him than to actually keep him on the roster this year. So he's going to be in Philly this year. But next year, $9.9 million cap hit, and then 2 years from now, $10.9. So you would save $4.8 million if you release him next offseason. So maybe the Eagles see Jalen Mills as potentially being a safety on that back line down the line. Maybe. We'll see about that. I'm Adrian Fedkiw. I'm out. Peace.